Upon learning that my military husband had an unattainable white moonlight, I proactively applied to cancel my household registration and join the National Top Secret Research Program. Before departing, I resolved to interact amicably with Ethan, embodying the ideal wife he desired. On the 7th-day countdown before departure, he asked me to relinquish the master bedroom in our marital home to his white moonlight, so I voluntarily moved to the secondary bedroom to make space. On the 6th-day countdown, he insisted on picking up his white moonlight even as I was drenched in rain, so I sensibly alighted from the vehicle to avoid hindering his heroic rescue. On the 5th-day countdown, he, who had agreed to watch a movie together, went to accompany his white moonlight instead, prompting me to decide on an early departure to fully facilitate their union. Upon discovering my disappearance, he frantically rushed to report it to the police, causing a citywide commotion. However, the police stated, "There is no such person as Sophia, your marital status remains unmarried. This top-secret program will commence in 1 week, at which time we will erase all your information, including requiring confidentiality from family members, effectively meaning that Sophia will cease to exist in the world from then on. Sophia, won't you be reluctant to leave your husband and son?" Upon receiving my application, even the director was stunned for a long while, as I had previously prioritized family above all else. I remained silent for a moment. They already have someone they care about to accompany them. I believe the nation needs me more. This was solely because Ethan was the youngest Special Forces captain in the Southeast Military District. With the awareness of being a military spouse, I voluntarily relinquished my scientific career to willingly serve as the backbone of his family. However, it was only later that I learned he had an excessively pampered confidant outside. Before signing to confirm, I inquired, "What about my marital relationship with Ethan?" The director coughed awkwardly twice. "It will naturally be automatically annulled, I suppose you." Upon hearing this, I hesitated not for a moment. "In that case, I voluntarily joined the Chilean program and will report on time in 1 week." Seeing my resolute attitude, the director was moved to tears. "Comrade Sophia, thank you for the sacrifice you are making for the nation. We warmly welcome your participation. In 1 more week, I would no longer be anyone's wife or mother. I only permitted them to have me for 1 more week." After vanishing without reason for a day, my phone contained only a few messages urging me to cook, with no further inquiries. The night wind chilled me to the bone, yet upon pushing open the door, the room inside was warmly blinding. Clara was holding our son while playing with paper cutting. With hatred in his eyes, the son cut out my photo from the family portrait and thoughtfully pasted Clara's in its place. My photo was torn into countless pieces, scattered on the floor. Ethan's silence could be considered tacit approval. He, who usually exuded a lethal aura, rarely displayed relaxation, reclining on the sofa with legs crossed. Broad-shouldered and long-legged, his tall and lean figure resembled a three-dimensional form carved by whistling cold winds. With a gentle gaze he had never directed at me, he stared at Clara and the child, occasionally responding to them. Holding the house key, I felt like an intruder who had mistakenly entered someone else's happy family. When was the last time he came home? 3 months ago? 5 months ago? If I couldn't remember, I wouldn't dwell on it. After all, our marriage was originally forced. Back then, when Ethan's father encountered danger during a border mission, my parents, living on the border, sacrificed their lives to save Richard's. At an age when I was just babbling, I became an orphan. Richard immediately declared, "Sophia is the future daughter-in-law of our He family. The He family will be responsible for Sophia for life." With both parents deceased and from an impoverished background, I knew I was unworthy of a military family like the He family. Coincidentally, Ethan was injured during a mission and faced life-threatening danger due to the lack of a suitable kidney donor. As the only match, I unhesitatingly donated my kidney to him. Despite Margaret's repeated obstructions, Richard insisted that Ethan marry me. Unexpectedly, after the marriage, Ethan avoided me like the plague, and his relationship with Richard deteriorated to freezing point. I originally thought people like him were simply naturally aloof. It turned out that while I endured the aftermath on the hospital bed, Ethan gradually developed affections with Clara, the military doctor caring for him, and they privately committed to each other for life. It was my one-sided willingness to donate the kidney that disrupted their happiness. Looking at that forcibly pieced-together family portrait, Clara suddenly revealed a sorrowful expression. It's a pity that having a home is a luxury for me. During this leave, I don't even have a place to stay. She was always adept at showing weakness. Clara had lost both parents at a young age. Back then, she sought help everywhere, hoping kind people would sponsor her education. Sharing similar misfortunes, I persisted in funding her through university via part-time jobs, and through this, she met Ethan. Clara once tearfully told me she would repay me well. Her way of repayment was to follow Ethan to his unit after graduation, become a military doctor, and spend days and nights with him. In the unit, Clara spread rumors that my charity was fake, that I was untimely with money transfers, and stingy. An orphan yet portraying herself externally as the pampered young lady of the He family, utterly vain. Consequently, Ethan grew even more disgusted with me, immediately separating bedrooms after marriage. After conceiving our son from a drunken night, he thereafter remained faithful to Clara, wary of my every approach. Feeling aggrieved, Clara naturally evoked Ethan's sympathy, who promptly suggested she could temporarily stay at our home. Clara, without politeness, as if prepared in advance, pointed to my bedroom. I think that room is quite good. Following her finger, Ethan slightly frowned but soon relaxed. It's not impossible. The son I raised single-handedly clapped in joy. Yay! It would be even better if Aunt Clara could become my mom. His impatient tone wished for me to move out immediately. Ethan wore a faint smile, appearing helpless yet satisfied as he patted the son's head. Accidentally making noise while placing the keys, I shattered the warm scene. The son hurriedly covered the family portrait on the table, while Ethan reverted to his cold demeanor. I knew they were waiting for me to erupt in anger. After all, I had cried and caused scenes countless times over Clara's boundaryless behavior. Honestly, it was quite pointless. Indifferently withdrawing my gaze, I couldn't be bothered. I fetched a glass of water and gulped it down as if nothing happened. Ethan was stunned for a moment, unusually initiating conversation. Are you hungry? Shall I cook you a bowl of noodles? In the past, if he offered a step down, I would immediately scramble to take it, as I had longed to eat his cooking. But I knew full well. The seemingly caring words were actually to divert the topic, fearing I would confront Clara. I originally didn't want to respond, blaming Ethan's piercing gaze that seemed intent on staring through me if ignored. I could only perfunctorily say, not hungry, I just drank my fill. Evidently, Clara failed to grasp Ethan's intentions, rising with jealousy. I should leave. The son immediately hugged Clara's leg, wailing. Mom is bad, as soon as you return, you drive away Aunt Clara. Mom should get out, I want Aunt Clara to stay. A breath stuck in my chest, neither rising nor falling. Ethan reluctantly picked up the car keys, appearing unwilling for Clara to leave. See, I was the superfluous one. But it didn't matter, in one more week, I would completely cease to be an eyesore to them. Exhaling the stagnant breath from my chest, I forced a smile. Since everyone wants you to stay, then don't leave, from now on, stay in my room. Clara looked at me in astonishment, and even the usually composed Ethan had traces of shock in his gaze. Only the son, oblivious, turned from crying to laughing. Really? Yay. Great. Ethan's eyes flickered with changing expressions, hastily speaking before Clara could move. No need, Clara will return after her leave. I'll find her a hotel, no need to trouble you. After 7 years of marriage, I seem to have never understood Ethan. Logically, with Clara staying here, they would be closer, and he should eagerly agree. Even Clara felt aggrieved by Ethan's unusual behavior, a tear teetering on the brink. At that moment, Ethan's thoughts unusually not on Clara, his gaze persistently followed me, as if finally noticing my anomaly. Meeting his gaze, I smiled candidly. It's no trouble, I've accepted a job, and I won't be staying in this room anymore. Ethan's profound brows tinged with irritation. Oh, where are you going for part-time work again? The son muttered discontentedly. You can only cook and mop at home, earning less than $3,000 a month. If not for marrying my dad, could you live such a good life? My heart felt as if splashed with a basin of lemon water, sour and wrinkled. Richard was away year-round, and the He family had long ceased providing my tuition and living expenses. Relying on my own rough hands, I astonishingly funded my way through part-time jobs to gain admission to Peking University's School of Mathematical Sciences. The He family knew nothing of this. In 7 years of marriage, Ethan was so distant that he didn't even know what work I did. During 10 months of pregnancy, including delivery, I went to the hospital alone, supporting my belly. Nearly dying from dystocia on the delivery bed, I forcibly signed my own critical condition notice. I forewent lucrative offers, choosing a leisurely role in the team solely to raise our son healthily. Yet my son sarcastically called me a parasite. In the past, I would have poured out grievances to garner that insignificant attention. But now, I merely said calmly, no, I'm preparing to participate in. Before finishing, Clara suddenly furrowed her brows, clutching her stomach in agony. I don't know why, but my stomach suddenly hurts so much. Ethan instantly withdrew his gaze from me, kneeling on one knee to examine Clara's abdomen, anxiously asking, does it hurt here? Or here? The son, who usually had me serve him meals, nimbly fetched a cup of hot water and handed it to Clara. Aunt Clara, will drinking some hot water help? The scene before me, a family clustering in concern, was a lifelong, unattainable dream for me. It turned out they weren't incapable of caring, they simply didn't care about me. I remembered this summer was particularly stifling. After busily cooking alone, I collapsed in the living room. The son disdainfully glanced at me and continued eating. When I awoke, it was already afternoon, the dim yellow sunset rendering the living room exceptionally desolate. The son was nestled in the bedroom playing games, the table laden with remnants of a devoured meal. A week later, on our wedding anniversary, Ethan still claimed he was too busy to return home. My mother-in-law took the son to interest classes. I specially prepared many of his favorite dishes, planning to bring them to the unit as a surprise. The guard said he had long returned to accompany his loved one. Evidently, that loved one wasn't me. I learned Ethan's whereabouts from Clara's Facebook video. In the amusement park, Clara wore a playful Mickey Mouse headband, tightly embracing the son. The son held Ethan's hand and kissed Clara's cheek. From behind the screen came my mother-in-law's voice. You two lovebirds, give a hug. Ethan lightly pursed his thin lips in hesitation, but ultimately smiled faintly and drew Clara into his arms. When I rushed to the amusement park, I coincidentally saw them exiting joyfully. I hid behind a tree, mere steps from Ethan. Even over the phone, I could hear the son's noisy screams and Clara's cloying laughter. I dearly hoped Ethan would tell the truth at that moment, not lie. But he said, new recruit training, still busy. Biting my lip until it bled, I clutched the phone and replied, okay. This world is full of illusions, only pain never lies. I told myself it would pass, that I wasn't sad, not at all. Without needing Ethan to condescend to drive me away, I sensibly went to the guest bedroom. Clara joyfully went to the master bedroom, and the son clamored to sleep with her. It seemed that even after I left, the son would be very happy. This was quite good. The next day, Margaret finally returned from her trip, bringing many souvenirs, for the son, for Ethan, even for Clara. I stood there at a loss, pondering how to thank Margaret later. But until the gifts were distributed, she merely glared at me discontentedly. Hurry and cook, I've been craving your food outside, can't get used to eating out. Her tone resembled commanding a servant, which it essentially was. Conversely, Clara, the outsider, embraced Margaret like a true daughter-in-law, kissing her cheek. Auntie, you're so kind. Margaret caressed Clara's hand, utterly satisfied. In the future, in the unit, we'll rely on you to take good care of my son. Indeed, in awkward moments, people tend to look around aimlessly. Turning my head, I met Ethan's gaze, which seemed to carry unusual emotions. He glanced at my empty hands, holding a gift and slowly approaching me. Was he preparing to bestow it upon me as charity? That hand had just extended toward me when Clara pounced over, snatching the gift from Ethan's hand, eyes sparkling. Wow. I like this one too, can you give it to me? Ethan was stunned for a moment, looking at me. Under Clara's expectant gaze, he finally nodded. Okay. Receiving the gift, Clara looked at me with eyes full of triumphant expression. My thoughts in disarray, Margaret suddenly shoved me. What are you dazing for? Go cook, do you expect me to do it? Touching my somewhat dull-aching chest, I casually said, in the days I'm absent, you'll have to learn to cook for yourselves in the future. The son thought I was putting on airs, sneering. In the future? You make it sound like you're about to die. Precisely, it could be considered death. But seeing their happy family appearance, it seemed my presence or absence made no difference. Let this be the last meal I make for them. Familiarly donning the apron, I turned into the kitchen. Clara followed closely, assuming an extremely virtuous and proactive demeanor. Sister, let me help you. Margaret pulled her over, feigning reproach. You're a military doctor, a person of the nation, not born to serve others for life. After saying this, she glared at me. I knew she was mocking that I was inferior to Clara. If she helped, all three would be unhappy, why seek discomfort? The stir-fried green peppers and meat in the pot were steaming, my vision suddenly spinning in the rising mist. The sense of weightlessness disoriented me, causing me to fall toward the floor. Unbeknownst when, Ethan had been standing behind me, catching me in his arms. Whether illusion or not, I saw his brows deeply furrowed, heartache and panic intertwining in his eyes. Are you okay? Need help? His solid muscles pressed against me, scorching hot. Borrowing strength from his arms, I barely stood straight, hastily withdrawing from his embrace. Margaret darted into the kitchen like guarding against a thief, blocking between us. As soon as I returned, I saw it, she's just lazy and doesn't want to cook, putting on an act. Just as I wanted to explain, Clara trotted over to pull Ethan, smiling brightly. Come see the family portrait the son drew, it's quite impressive. The spatula flipped in the pot, yet it couldn't dispel the image in my mind of the son's drawing of a family of 4, Ethan, him, Margaret, Clara. When I served the table, the 4 were harmoniously taking turns picking dishes. Only remnants remained on the table. I, the cook, picked up chopsticks but didn't know what to pick. Sated, Margaret exchanged a glance with Clara, then straightened up. Sophia, there are some things I must clarify with you. She produced 2 items, one was the divorce agreement between Ethan and me, the other a bank card with 10,000 deposited. You know the disparity in status between you and my son, your job is unpresentable. Now my son has found true love, my grandson dislikes you, and I've long been dissatisfied with you. Hearing this, I already understood. Turning to Ethan, his eyes downcast, no particular emotion visible under long lashes. My heart sank completely, with the Chilean program about to start, it was time to conclude everything. I set down the chopsticks. Perfect, I also have something to say to you all. Margaret immediately impatiently gestured to stop. No need for your entangling words, I'll speak first. She pushed the divorce agreement and bank card toward me. Back then, your parents sacrificed their lives to save Ethan's father. We are grateful, but we've raised you in the palm of our hands, so this debt is repaid. Donating a kidney to my son was your voluntary act, not a sacrifice. Moreover, my son aggrieved himself by marrying you. We don't seek repayment for our kindness, just let my son go, or I'll kneel to you. Saying this, she feigned kneeling, determined to force me to sign the divorce agreement. I mercilessly exposed her. No need for theatrics, I'll sign. In Ethan's slowly widening eyes, I unhesitatingly picked up the pen. The second I signed my name, I even felt relieved. Finally, no need to actively bear the guilt of abandoning the marriage. Finally, it was over. The son raised his hands joyfully. Yay! I can finally get a new mom. Clara, excited, disregarded reserve and immediately tried to hold Ethan's hand for their union. This marriage cannot be dissolved. Ethan sidestepped to deliberately avoid Clara's touch, reaching over to snatch the divorce agreement. Under everyone's astonished gazes, the agreement deformed in his hands, tore, and scattered as fragments throughout the room. "Brother Ethan, what are you doing?" Clara, flushed red, covered her face and ran to the bedroom. Margaret slammed the table in anger. "Are you crazy? Isn't this what you've always wanted?" Ethan, with a somber face, explained after a long pause, "I'm in a career ascent period now. If divorced, how will the leaders view me? How will they view Clara?" I thought he genuinely didn't want the divorce. Ultimately, it was for Clara's reputation. Let him be, even without signing. Once I left, it would automatically annul anyway. Amid the clamor, I left alone. Hailing a cab, I went to the frequently visited traditional Chinese medicine clinic, where I often bought medicine for Richard. Since his injury, his chest ached piercingly on windy or rainy days. I consulted all relevant experts, only this clinic's herbal medicine was particularly effective. Without waiting for his leave, I would prepare some in advance for him to take back to the barracks. Each time, he fondly patted my head, love overflowing from his eyes. "Sophia, what would this family do without you?" Richard was extremely kind to me, dividing his monthly salary into 3 parts, one for household, one for me, one saved. But my portion had long been withheld by Margaret. While others enjoyed family affection beside parents, I broke calluses on my hands at construction sites. But I didn't want to burden Richard further, scrimping to complete my studies. This time I instructed the doctor to write down the prescription. When I was gone, they could still fill it for Richard. After buying the medicine, I idly entered a mall to browse. Passing a cosmetics counter, the mirror reflected my weary face, dull complexion completely obscuring my refined features. If my parents hadn't died, I would now be their treasured child, presumably not worn down to this state. The counter staff smiled and approached. "What would you like to buy?" Stunned, I shook my head. "I don't understand these." "No problem, you can try makeup even without buying." She pulled me to sit, picking up unfamiliar items to apply on my face. The me in the mirror gradually transformed, assuming a new appearance. So radiant, devoid of time's wear. "See how beautiful you are, women must love themselves more. I'm not trying to make you spend here, but you are truly beautiful, it's a pity not to dress up." Yes, if even I don't love myself, who can I expect to cherish me? Not wanting the staff's efforts in vain, I bought a lipstick and left. The clothes on me had been worn repeatedly for years. Heading to a new workplace, I needed new attire. Donning fashionable clothing, now I truly didn't recognize myself in the mirror. My mood improved considerably, exiting the mall entrance laden with purchases. The sky was overcast, nearby dark clouds like dense recycled smoke. The crowd bustled, some laughing, some hurrying. Blame Ethan for being too striking. In the bustling crowd, he immediately fixed in my sight. In a black trench coat, he stood erect leaning on the car door, a cigarette between fingers. Merely standing there, he easily captured many passers-by's gazes. Upon first seeing me, he hesitated half a day before recognizing. The man who moments ago seemed above all hastily extinguished the cigarette, pausing. "I saw the sky about to rain, so I came to pick you up." As if explaining, fearing I might harbor unwarranted fantasies about his sudden concern. It was unnecessary. Ethan's ear tips inexplicably tinged red. After silent half a day, he spoke. "You look quite beautiful today." Having devoted heart and soul to this family for years, he never glanced once, yet now spared praise. However, my heart was already unruffled, politely smiling. "Thank you. Get in, I'll drive you." This was my first time in his car, also the last. Opening the passenger door, a row of Mickey Mouse dolls Clara liked met my eyes, the seat labeled "Little Cuties Exclusive." Sensibly turning to the back seat, Ethan frantically tossed all dolls to the back and swiftly tore off the label. "Clara is young, playful, won't let her do this anymore." He patted the passenger seat, tone brooking no refusal. "Sit here." I didn't intend to argue further, bending to sit. Just settling, he suddenly leaned over, arm crossing my chest, half enclosing me in his embrace. faint tobacco scent drawing nearer, he reached for my seatbelt. Whether nervous or otherwise, I clearly felt his body trembling, failing to align the buckle for half a day. I sighed, taking and buckling it. I can do it myself. He faintly responded. The pattering heavy rain arrived abruptly, blurring the streetscape. Never before alone with him in such enclosed space. I could even smell his clear scent, carrying a soldier's characteristic severity. He occasionally glanced at me, finally unable to resist breaking the silence. What did you buy? Belatedly realizing, I set down the medicine in my arms. Oh, traditional Chinese medicine for your dad. And this is the prescription, I'll put it in the armrest box for you, future medicine purchases are up to you. The car abruptly braked. Ethan stared ahead, hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. His voice hoarse, why does it feel like you're giving last words? Disappearing from this world could be considered last words. Actually, you don't need to be so tired, you can speak out, let me share the burden. He turned, profound enigmatic eyes bright then dim. Share my burden, must be the heavy rain making me mishear. Sophia. I faintly responded. Let's chat. But I had nothing to say. I didn't reply, leaning sideways on the window, closing eyes to rest. The noisy rain amplified our silence. I was awakened by Ethan's phone ring, even through the screen, I heard Clara's noisy voice. It's raining so hard, I'm trapped here, what to do, brother Ethan, I'll catch a cold if drenched. Peripheral vision glancing at Ethan, he was also assessing if I was awake. I'm inconvenient now, take a cab first. No way, can't get a cab now, fine, get drenched then. Hanging up, Ethan was distracted, even running a red light. I didn't want to die in his car before devoting to the nation, finally breaking silence. It's fine, drop me here, go pick her up. It's not far anyway, I'll walk back. Such heavy rain. Ethan's face conflicted, finally deciding. How about this, there's a bus stop ahead, wait there, I'll come pick you up later. Just closing the door, the car accelerated away into the rain curtain. I didn't look back, running to a nearby convenience store to buy an umbrella, returning alone. See, one can take care of oneself alone. Back home, I began packing luggage. It seemed no need for a week, I could leave now. However, circling the house, it was full of their traces. Belonging to me, there seemed nothing. Finally, under the cabinet, in layers of plastic bags, I found my marriage certificate with Ethan. Evident how much I cherished it back then. In the photo, I wore a silly smile, Ethan a bitter face. The only memory was so unpleasant. The family portrait with me had been torn by the sun. Lighting the lighter, watching our photo on the marriage certificate gradually turn to ashes in the flame. From then on, even recalling me, they couldn't find a trace of mine. Mutual relief, truly good. Soon, sounds from the living room, mixed with Clara's coquettish voice. Brother Ethan, you're so good, you always appear first at my side. To their displays of affection, I was long accustomed. But this time, Ethan said, you're a guest, it's proper. The living room fell silent. After a while, Ethan knocked on my door. I ignored, wrapping the blanket tighter, resenting the disturbance of my sweet dream. Next morning, my phone had Ethan's message, sent at 3 a.m. Yesterday was my fault, I bought 2 movie tickets, let's go together. In years of marriage, the little romances he often had with Clara never occurred with me. This was his first initiative to invite me to a movie. I thought, since leaving, at least say something to him. When the movie ends, we should part. In the end, waiting until the movie ended, Ethan still didn't come. Each time serious, each time a lesson, each time disappointment. Until staff left work, Ethan finally messaged. Clara got drenched yesterday, ill today, I'm with her at hospital. Tomorrow, I'll take 2 more days off to accompany you properly. But we had no tomorrow. Whenever Clara appeared, he always unhesitatingly chose her. Even if this time he initiated inviting me. I had foreseen this, so notified the director in advance to pick me up. Returning home, no one was there, all rushed to hospital to accompany Clara. That goodbye, no one said. I took nothing, only changed into new clothes, properly tidying myself. The car slowly arrived, the director with a worried face welcoming me. As if reluctant, he asked. Sophia, I give you one last chance. Are you sure to completely sever from your family, henceforth companion to research? This choice, I made in my previous life. Then, I chose family, unrepentantly becoming a housewife. As time passed, Ethan grew increasingly annoyed with me. When life's burdens broke my health, Margaret forced divorce, the son despised my uselessness. I watched helplessly as Ethan and Clara united, angering me to vomit blood. On bed with last breath, Ethan married Clara in a grand wedding. The son full of mockery and disdain. You should have died long ago, delaying my dad and Clara mom for years. Upon learning my death, long-deceived Richard vomited blood and died before my small grave. In this life, I won't repeat mistakes. Ethan, this time I don't want you. With firm gaze at the director. Please trust my determination, I'll devote my life to the nation, without regret. The director's eyes moistened, holding my hand. Comrade Sophia, no, your codename is now Red Eagle, welcome to the Chilean program, becoming one of us. The moment I boarded the car, I was completely from a different world than them. The car drove long, through neon-lit skyscrapers, bustling crowds. Passing mountains, streams, finally vanishing into deep mountains. Henceforth, parting ways amicably, each well, no interference. The He family was busy caring for Clara. When returning, it was evenings days later. Previously, I always waited for their return, preparing hot meals. This time, Margaret knocked long without response. Angrily cursing, this lazybones, sleeping so early, not opening after knocking so long. Several stamped feet in cold outside, finally awaiting locksmith. Pushing open, the house cold and desolate. As when they left, so now. Unwashed dishes lay quietly in sink, moldy. The son hungrily yelled, "Why didn't Mom cook?" "I don't want takeout, I want Mom's cooking." Margaret ached dearly, another tirade. Where did Sophia die off to? Not cooking, rebelling. Ethan felt faint unease rising inwardly. Fingertip wiped windowsill dust, evidently no one home these days. Thick fear like the night enveloped him, he finally recalled. I arranged to watch movie with her, I forgot, she couldn't be angry, right? He searched the house several times, even storage room, finding no trace of me. Clara aggrievedly poked fingers. Sister wouldn't be angry that you all accompanied me and ran away, right? Margaret opened drawer, slamming my ID on table, assuredly. Documents here, how could she run, does she have that ability? Moreover, no maternal home, where could she go? Ethan gripped phone dialing my number, heart tightening. Until my ringtone sounded in guest bedroom. Everything there, except me. The son long famished, clutching stomach crying, "No, I want food." Margaret smiled awkwardly at Clara. How about trying your cooking today? Clara had grown accustomed to my service over years, extremely unwilling but soon smiling. Of course. Turning, she muttered curses, dumping half-bag salt while cooking. Viciously, to be your daughter-in-law, not your nanny. This masterpiece, son spat after one bite, Margaret gagged rinsing mouth. Clara batted watery eyes. My cooking is really bad. Margaret saw through but couldn't say. At table, only Ethan sat desolately on sofa. Seeming preoccupied, staring at my last message, occasionally going to door to look. 1 or 2 days, initially maintaining surface harmony. Gradually, even Margaret wanted me back soon. Unit long urging Ethan's return, he preferred defying orders to wait personally for me. Finally, family couldn't sit still, rushing to police to report. Comrade police, I suspect my wife was kidnapped. Ethan flustered, pinning last hope on police. Police asked about my name, height, age, appearance, work unit. Ethan stammered long, realizing besides my name, he knew nothing else. Even police were speechless. Seeing you flustered saying to find wife, thought you cared much, but don't know basic info? Ethan flushed, finally recalling to produce the marriage certificate. Police searched system, finally oddly glancing at Ethan. This certificate fake? No such person as Sophia. Look clearly, stamped clearly, Sophia is my wife. Ethan lost usual composure, anxiously roaring. But your marital status is unmarried. Then police advised Margaret, perhaps his mental stress too great, suggest seeing psychiatry. One sentence, all silent. Couldn't be all hallucinating, imagining Sophia out of thin air. Ethan stunned in place, usually erect figure slumping. The son stood there tangibly, yet this marriage seemed his dream. As if Sophia never existed. Margaret pondered, eyes brightening. Isn't this perfect? Saves divorce, hurry marry Clara, both first marriage. Clara shyly twisted close hem. No need too grand, as long as with brother Ethan, I'm willing anything. When did I say to marry Clara? Ethan coldly interrupted. His gaze at Clara never so cold, like at an irrelevant person. My wife is only Sophia. Saying this, he turned out, got in car. Clara chased relentlessly behind, falling and bloodying chin, Ethan not glancing back. All methods tried, last resort. Ethan, years without calling father, initiated breaking ice calling Richard. Informed Richard rushed home overnight, raging. I'm just busy in barracks, not dead, what have you done behind my back? If anything happened to Sophia, I'll sever ties with all. Pointing Margaret's nose, hating gnashing teeth. If not Sophia's parents saving me, you'd be orphans and widow, you dare force her divorce. Glaring at Ethan, eyes full of killing intent. If not Sophia disregarding health donating kidney, your grave grass would be tall. Then he slapped the son always pampered. When your mom had dystocia birthing you, she unhesitatingly told doctor save child not adult, what right to despise her? And you? Gnashing pointing Clara. Knowing my son married, still entangling, shame your military doctor. Roll now, don't appear in my home again. Clara crying open door, every 3 steps looking back, but never Ethan's retention. All dared not speak, even son silent. Due to overexcitement, Richard's old ailment struck fiercely, clutching chest on sofa unable to rise long. Ethan as if recalling, took out the herbal medicine I prepared. Looking at the packets, Richard couldn't hold back moist eyes. Opening package, a neatly written farewell letter fell out. Dad Richard, this is my last time calling you Dad. Thank you for years of care. For my parents' death, I never blamed you, sacrificing for defending nation's soldiers, they surely willing, no regret. Ethan and I fade exhausted, no need force. My only concern is you, please must take care, live long. Don't inquire my whereabouts. Don't miss, Sophia. Letter unread finish, Richard already tears streaming. He flung letter heavily at Ethan's face. See what you've done. Ethan scrambled picking letter, under long lashes eyes following words, faintly tears glimmering. Clutching letter, eyes down, he knelt thud before Richard. Growing up together, I knew his pride thoroughly. He never begged his father. Even today's achievements from own step by step, blood and sweat. But now, devoutly kneeling at father's feet. I know wrong, I beg you, help find her. I'll apologize face to face, seek forgiveness. Richard then showed slight better face. You better. However, Richard contacted all connections, still nothing. No way, he shamelessly called old superior. Soon call back. Ethan full expectation, got thunderbolt. There earnestly, even my position can't find, think what it means, you should understand. Richard immediately comprehended, slapping Ethan's face. You and her, completely no fate. No need search more, give up, roll back to unit. But Ethan disbelieved. He didn't believe I loved him so, yet could heartlessly part forever. He searched home for my traces, finally in storage finding discarded express box with documents. Inside my Peking University admission, Math Olympiad Gold, various international contest honors. The person he always scorned was so outstanding. I forewent halo of honors, wholeheartedly caring family for him. Ultimately he pushed me to unreachable distance this life. 5 years later, base infiltrated by spies, several researchers inexplicably dead. Organization sent elite special forces to assist transfer. Even trying to appear calm, Ethan's gaze pierced crowd, easily locking me. Powerful palms suddenly restrained me, tightening. Ethan's eyes moist, voice trembling. Sophia? Nearby seniors pushed Ethan away. What are you doing? She's my wife. Ethan's eyes flashed regained light. Then extinguished by my words. Look carefully again, I don't know you, never met. 5 years tempering, I no longer timid as before. Conversely, elite sharpness in brows, unfeignable. Long before he dimly lowered eyes, whole person drained. Sorry, mistook person. I just miss my wife too much. Leaving, he reluctantly glanced at me again and again. Previous life, I saw him off. This life, he saw me off. Watching me slowly disappear from sight again. Powerless, painful, yet helpless. Heard after return, Ethan applied for extremely dangerous mission. Executing, he turned bellyful regret into enemy killing force. Like invincible killing god, repeatedly extraordinary feats. Until dying in battle last moment, mouth murmuring only my name. He left no words for he family anyone, but solely a will for me. My wife, Sophia, are you well outside? I miss you much. 5 years, what to do, find the more try forget, the more uncontrollably think you. Eating, walking, thinking you gave me new life, yet I broke your heart. I start hating myself. Wish to return my life intact to you. I seem to have incurable disease. To past with you, hallucinations auditory visual, unwilling awake. When seeing you again, that instant thanked heaven returning you. But when you refused recognize, I fully understood. Past regrets, irreparable. Perhaps only death ends all. I'm not one to write wills, sacrificing for nation my fate. When you see this letter, I presumably ashes. I'll become star in sky, or data in your computer. I'll forever guard you. Your husband, Ethan. Letter read, I lit lighter, burning it. Watching it ash bit by bit, like past scenes I severed. I respect his heroic sacrifice for nation. But as former husband, I'll never forgive him. Later I learned, since I left, Ethan severed all contact with Clara. Clara originally wanted you son to cling, Ethan ruthless to even abandon son. For 5 years straight, he never left unit. Later Clara expelled from military for major error. With this stain, no work unit dared hire her. Finally no choice back to hometown, wanted marry rich local, unexpectedly alcoholic. Clara beaten black and blue daily. Son matured much, often mentioning mother, words full guilt regret. Margaret fainted crying at Ethan's funeral, hospital diagnosed hemiplegia. But all this unrelated to me. I buried head continuing calculations, immersing in my world.